Good morning. Today I will be reading from Luke 7:11 through 17. It reads, "Now it happened the day after that he went into a city called Nain, that many of his disciples went with him and a large crowd. And when he came near the gate of the city, behold, a dead man was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and a large crowd from the city was with her. When the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and said to her, 'Do not weep.' Then he came and touched the open coffin, and those who carried him stood still. And he said, 'Young man, I say to thee, arise.' So he who was dead sat up and began to speak, and he presented him to his mother. Then fear came upon all, and they glorified God, saying, 'A great prophet has risen up among us, and God has visited his people.' And this report about him went throughout all Judea and all the surrounding region." There are three things that I want to take from this passage. They are having compassion, proof that Jesus is the Son of God, and that we need to glorify God in everything that we do. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is having compassion. In verse 13 of the text, it says, "And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and said unto her, Weep not." We also see that Jesus had compassion on other people. In Matthew 20, verse 34, it says, "So Jesus had compassion on them, and touched their eyes, and immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed him." Another way we know that we need compassion is because we see in 1 Peter 3:8 that we are to be all of one mind, having compassion one of another. If we do not have compassion on other people, then we are not like Jesus, and we are supposed to be as much like Jesus as we can be. Next, I'm going to show you some proof that Jesus is the Son of God. In verses 14 and 15, it says, "And he came and touched the bier, and they that bare him stood still. And he said, Young man, I say unto thee, arise. And he that was dead sat up and began to speak, and he delivered him to his mother." In this case, he is performing a great miracle where he raises the widow's son from the dead. Another place we see this is in Luke 7:20 through 22. These verses say, "When the men were come unto him, they said, John the Baptist hath sent us unto thee, saying, Art thou he that should come, or look we for another? And in that same hour he cured many of their infirmities and plagues and of evil spirits, and unto many that were blind he gave sight. And Jesus answering said unto them, Go your way, and tell John what things you have seen and heard." The rest of the verse talks about miracles that Jesus performed, such as healing the blind and raising the dead. These miracles are great miracles, and they should tell us that we know that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. The last thing I'm going to talk about is that we need to glorify God in every single thing that we do. In verse 16 of the passage, it says, "And there a fear in all, they glorified God, saying among us, and that God hath visited his people." Another verse is in Acts 14:11 through 15. These verses are when Paul performs a miracle, and the people of Lystra start to worship Paul and Barnabas. Then in verse 15 it says, "And saying, Sirs, why do ye these things? We also are men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities unto the living God, which made heaven and earth and the seas and all things that are therein." These passages tell us that we need to glorify God. As you can see, we need to have compassion on others. We need to prove that Jesus is the Son of God, and we need to glorify God. Thank you.